Now, have you ever thought that it would be great to be able to have all of the shares on your server accessible through Nextcloud, and to easily be able to share files and folders from that with others? You have? Well, this video is for you. Right then guys, so following on from the last Nextcloud video, the last Nextcloud quick tip, where we looked at putting or deleting data directly into Nextcloud, not through its web UI or not through the client, but directly into the share where we keep the Nextcloud data. Well, in this video, we're going to look at how we can actually connect any share on our Unraid server into Nextcloud. So not only does this allow us to access our shares through Nextcloud, but it also means we can share any file or folder in our shares on the Unraid server to either friends, family, or complete strangers, even if they don't have their own Nextcloud account. So I think this is really super useful. So let's go back to the Unraid web UI and go to the Shares tab here. Now, I know that a lot of new users, when they first set up Nextcloud, they automatically assume that all of these shares are going to be accessible through Nextcloud. Well, unfortunately, by default, that's just not the case. And like we saw in the last video, we know that there's a share which Nextcloud uses, this one here called Nextcloud, and inside of that share, all of the users store their data inside of a folder based on the username. So by default, Nextcloud can only access things in this share. Yes, users can share files with other users, but by default, this is the only share that the Docker container Nextcloud actually is allowed to access. So if you want to be able to access other shares as well, then we're going to need to use a Nextcloud plugin and also add these shares to the template as well. So first, let's go back across to Nextcloud and we'll install the Nextcloud app. We need to be logged in as an admin user, and we want to go up to the top right hand corner, click on the icon here, and then go down to apps. And we want to make sure that the app external storages is installed and enabled. So I'm going to scroll down here, and here's external storage support, and I'm going to click on to enable. I'm going to have to put in my Nextcloud password and click on to confirm. Okay, so now that's enabled. If I go back up to the icon in the top and go to settings, now if I scroll down here, under the administration here, we've now got this section here, external storage. So I'm going to click onto that. And with this app or plugin, whatever you want to call it, it allows us to mount external storage devices into Nextcloud. And external storage allows us to connect to other storage devices. It could be something like an FTP server somewhere on the internet, or it can even be a local storage inside Nextcloud itself. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking the Unraid shares, they're not actually mapped into Nextcloud, so Nextcloud can't see them. Well, you're exactly right. So that's why now we're going to go across back to the Unraid web UI and map the shares we want Nextcloud to be able to see into the Nextcloud template. So to do that, obviously, we're going to go to the Docker tab and then stop Nextcloud. And now I'm going to edit the template, and I'm going to scroll down here. And at the bottom, I'm going to click add another path, port, variable, label, or device. And we want to add another path. Now name, I'm just going to call it external media. Now obviously the name is just a label and you can call it anything you want. I'm just calling it external media because I'm going to map it to my media share. And now for the container path, what we put here is important because this is where inside the Nextcloud file system, this mapping is going to be. So I'm going to put /ext_media. And now for the host path, I'm going to map that to my media share here. So what this means now is Nextcloud has access to this location in the path /ext_media. So I'm going to add that. And I'm going to add one more. For name, I'm going to call this external software. And the container path /ext_software. And for my host path, I'm going to link it to the share called software. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to click add, scroll down to the bottom and apply the changes. And now start back up Nextcloud. Now I'm going to go back to the page on Nextcloud that I was on. I shouldn't have to re-log in, just refreshing the page should be okay. Okay, so now for the external storage, I'm going to give this a folder name and I'm going to call it media. And next, where it says add storage, I'm going to click on this drop down box here and I'm going to click local. And you can see here there are various other ways we can connect to external storages as well. We can connect to Amazon S3, an FTP or SFTP server, another Nextcloud instance, and you can also see here that we can connect to an SMB or CIF share. And if you don't know what that is, well, basically it's just like a Windows share. On Unraid we can share out our stuff either using SMB or NFS. So you might be thinking, well, why did I bother to actually map to these and I just didn't use this SMB connection to connect to my Unraid shares? Well, a couple of reasons. Firstly, everyone might not be using SMB shares. You may be using NFS shares on your server, or you want to connect to a folder that isn't shared at all. And besides, if what you want to connect to is actually on the same server that's running Nextcloud, then why go through an extra layer? So for the shares on this server, I'm going to use the local connection, and then I'm going to connect to a share on another server where I'm going to use SMB. Okay, so with this external storage being set to local, I don't need to use authentication, so I'm going to go onto the configuration here and put in the location. And so for that, I'm going to put the same as what I did in the template. I'm going to put /ext_media. And now here we can choose which users are able to access this local storage. So if I click onto here, I can give access to various groups or just to individual users. Well, I'm just going to give the access just to myself here. And with that done, I'm going to click this tick here to save that configuration. Okay, so next I'm going to do the same for the other location software. Again, it's local storage. And the location is /ext_software. And again, I'm going to be the only one with access. So I'm going to save that. Now another thing we can do here, if we click on these three dots here, if we wanted to set the share to be read-only so no one can delete anything, we'd check this here. I'm not going to do that myself. And also here where it says check for changes, this is how often Nextcloud will check for changes inside of that external share. By default it's set once for every direct access. And the other option is never check for changes. I really don't know why you'd want it to never check for changes, seems pretty pointless to me, but the option's there should you want to set it. So another important thing you might want to set is to enable sharing on the external storage so you can share it with other users or through a link on the web. I'm going to enable this for this one and I'm going to click save, and I'm going to do the same for the other external storage here. I'm going to enable sharing on this one too. Now should you actually want to get rid of an external storage, you can just click on delete here and then click yes, and that will delete the external storage. Now it will only delete the actual reference to the storage. It won't delete the data on your server, so you don't need to worry about that. I don't want to delete it, so I'm not going to do so. Now next I'm going to add another external storage. This time I'm going to call the folder name ISOs, and I'm going to add the storage on another server over SMB. So I'm going to go across to my other server here and I'm going to connect to this share here called ISOs. This share is a private share in which the username Ed has read-write access. Now we need to know the IP address of what we're connecting to, and the IP address of this server is 10.10.20.199. So I'm going to go back to Nextcloud, and under host I'm going to put in the IP. And the share, its name is ISOs. I don't need a remote subfolder, I don't need to put in domain, but the username and password I need to put in my user, the Ed user, the username and password there. And again, I need to choose who has access to this. I'm going to just have me to have access. And again, the three dots here. This time I'm not going to enable sharing on this. And I'm going to set this to read only. And then click on the tick to save. And now that's connected. So I'm going to head across to files here. Okay, and now we can see three folders with like a kind of arrow in a box on them, which means they're external storages. And we can also see the external storages by clicking on here, and this shows the external storages that the user has access to. So here's the SMB ISOs one, and the 2 local ones. So here are the local ones, media and software. And the ISO's one here, where it says size, it's pending because at the moment it's indexing this so it knows how many files and the size of the share. Now if I was to click on this, even though it's pending, we can still actually browse through the files. And here if I click onto media, this is the local share on this server where Nextcloud is hosted. And here we can see the folders TV shows and movies. If I go into movies here, we can see there's a whole bunch of movies. Now because I didn't set this to read only, I could select all of these files. I'm going to select all but one and I can delete them. Now you can see here it says error deleting file. Well, I'm not sure why it's saying that because actually the files are deleted. If I refresh the page, you can see I've only got one movie left. So that's one thing to be careful of. If you delete anything here, it will delete it directly out of the share. Now if I go back to the files here and I go into ISOs and I try and delete from here, because it's read only, I don't even have the option. Okay, so now let's look at sharing these external storages. So this one here, software, I could share an individual file, or I can share the whole folder. So to share, if I go to this little icon here, I can either share it as a link, which I can give to other people on the internet, or if I want to just share it with another user on my Nextcloud, I just start typing the name and I'm going to share this external storage with Peter Griffin. But I'm also going to create a share link as well by clicking the plus here, and it says the link's copied to the clipboard. Now if I click on these 3 dots here, by default this shared link is set to read only, and there's various other options here. Now we're going to look at sharing in much more detail in a future video. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to password protect this share, and I'm going to put my own password in. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test the link. Now I'm going to open up a new tab in a private window so I'm not logged into this Nextcloud, and I'm going to paste in the URL that's copied on the clipboard. And so straight away it's coming up asking for the password. So I'm going to put that in and log in. And so now here there's access to all of the files in that share, and the recipient of the link, they can download any one they want, or they can click at the top here and download all of the files. Okay, so let's close this, and now I'm going to log out of this user, and I'm going to log back in as Peter Griffin. And now if I go to Peter's files here, we can see he's only got access to this one external storage here. Now one thing to notice, even though this folder is an external storage, if I go to the left here and click on what external storages Peter Griffin has access to, it says that no external storages are configured. Well, this is correct because Peter Griffin only has access to this because I've shared it with him. And so for this account, it's not considered an external storage. And we can see the sharing icon in it showing that this is a shared folder, and it shows who shared it, and that was shared by me. So if he goes into it here, he's got access to all of the files. And again, he has access to be able to do everything, including deleting files. So because I shared this with read and write access, it means that the user can not only delete files, here I'm deleting elementary OS, but I can also create files and folders as well. But if I go back to the main files tab here, and I delete a whole shared folder, now it doesn't delete all of the files inside, it just deletes the shared folder from this Nextcloud account. So if I go ahead and do that now, we can see that it's no longer here. And now if I log out and log back into my account, we can see here that the external storage for me is still here. It's not been deleted. But if I look at the share icon here, we can see here that Peter Griffin no longer has access. And also, if I go inside the folder here, we can see that elementary OS, which Peter Griffin deleted, is no longer here for me. And the folder he created, well, that's still here as well. So that's how to add some shares to Nextcloud on your server or another server on the network Really useful, I find. Makes it super easy to send a file or folder to friends or family. Now as well, don't forget that the external storage plugin, it also allows you to connect to other external storages. I find the FTP extremely useful. In fact, I'll probably do a video on that, just a quick 2-minute video. It's great for things like if your seed box supports FTP, well, you can connect Nextcloud straight to your seed box. There's 1,000,001 uses for this. Anyway guys, I really hope you found this video useful. And yeah, you know what I'm going to say next, don't you? Well, if you did find it useful, well, please take a moment to hit the like button. And remember to share the video with any friends whom you might think will find it useful. And wait, hey, to all of my awesome Patreons out there, guys, thank you so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it. And if there's anyone out there who want to join that great bunch of people, then you can find links how to support the channel in the description below. Anyway guys, it's time for me to go now. But whatever you're up to for the rest of the day, I hope it's good, and I'll catch you in the next video.